I'm Keats, and welcome back to Derail Valley. So, the first thing I need to talk about is that if anybody tried to watch the stream on Monday and noticed that there wasn't one, that was a weird issue again that I had with Shadowplay, where I thought I was streaming and it turns out I wasn't, and I basically talked to myself for about an hour before I realized what was going on. Definitely one of the downsides of streaming in VR is that you can't really watch your own stream on a second monitor or something while you're going. So yeah, I lost an entire episode. Really, basically, what I just did was a couple freight hauls out of the harbor. Um, One up to the steel mill and then up to the goods factory again. But when I realized I hadn't actually recorded anything and hadn't streamed, I reloaded my save from the harbor. So we're just going to go ahead and redo that whole thing today. And at the end of episode 2, I promised a more in-depth tour of the harbor because it is the most complicated and largest of all the stations. And I think some people will get some use out of that. So let's go ahead and get to it. So the first thing we'll do is pull up our station schematic maps, flip over to the harbor. There we go, and we've got our overview. And I have us here at the entrance from the west side, which is definitely the most common side that you'll enter the harbor from. Based on the world map, rarely will you come down from the east. Mostly you'll be coming in from the west, at least in my experience. So it makes sense to look from here. Also, the ordering of the yards seems to be based on entering from the west anyway. So here we are coming into the harbor from the west, and we'll just go ahead and walk along the track. We'll probably start jumping ahead a little bit here. But at the harbor, you come to the first switch, which is right here. And if you go to the right, it takes you into the B yard, which is the military base. What that means is until you get the military license, you can't even go in here. So I believe if we try to go through the door, it'll tell us we need the license. Yep, there we go. Invisible wall. It doesn't look like it actually says anything at all, but that's okay. This is the military base. As such, this station office in the camo pattern container is the station office for the military base. So when you do get the military license, come here and you'll see here, this is where military contracts will drop on these ammo crates here, or weapon crates. I'm not entirely sure what they are. There you go. So that's the issue with that, and there's its own job validator in here as well. All right, if we had taken a left at that intro switch to head north, the next switch, if you go to the left, will continue to the other yards. If you go to the right, will actually take you to the turntable and the roundhouse. So you can see here, we still have 3 steamers and 1 shunter at this roundhouse. The nice thing about this turntable is when you have it aligned with the inbound track to the roundhouse, it will automatically put you on the correct track for servicing when you have the manual servicing license. So you won't have to get out and mess with the turntable after you've got it set up to head into the roundhouse if you want to buy fuel and repair. All right, continuing on past the roundhouse, we're We're going to come to yard C next, which would be, which I believe we dropped cars off here at the end of episode 2. And C is supposed to be the liquids loading yard. So this is where you're most likely to pick up and load liquid. In fact, here's our locomotive from the last time. So I don't know why it had us drop off these box cars here, because you can see down this way all the other cars on this are tankers, and actually looks like there's one flat car here. So this is where you'll go if you're looking at a job that has tank cars, but we will not be picking up any of those until we have at least the first hazmat license. You can see here, this is for flammable or explosive. In fact, I believe, no, that's an inbound line, so these are waiting to be unloaded. And if we go past here, you can see the loading computer is actually up on this walkway. There it is. But like I said, we probably won't be doing anything here until we have the first hazmat license, at least. All right, heading back out from C and back around the main loop here. Next, we'll be coming onto the branch that leads to D and G. As you can see, we went that way before. There's also 2 parking sidings over here. You can see those right there. One has a shunter, and the other one is empty right now. So there's our shunter, and there's another parking siding, where I do believe I've seen one of the DE6s spawn there as well. And I'm not entirely sure what determines what spawns where, like the roundhouse. I think it is just random, because right now we have 3 steamers and a shunter, and I know I've seen the DE6s spawn in there before. Keep on going, and we head to D. And the D yard is going to be the crane loading yard. So this is where we will bring the majority of our car types to load or unload. And you can see coming in from the north, the loading track is the one far to the right. So if you're coming in, instead of slowing down, just make sure all your switches are pointed to the right as you're coming in, and then you'll be set up and you'll head right into the loading track. Heading back out. One of the branches down here, the second one when you're heading in, it's actually the first one if you're coming this way. If you go to the right, it takes you to yard G. And you can see here, G is the storage yard. It has 1 inbound, 1 outbound track, and 4 storage sidings, or 4 sidings. And this one does actually go through. You can leave this way out to the east. And there's only 2 more to go, and only 1 is relevant to us at this point. I always overshoot. There we go. If we head back this way, so we're back, G comes back up, D and G come back out here, and now we're heading forward. And if we go to the right, I believe that is actually F. Yep, you can see if we head to the right, that's F, which is the passenger station, which is, as said before, not yet implemented in the game. Is actually one of my most highly anticipated features. That and the day-night cycle are the 2 things I'm looking forward to the most. Passengers, Not because they'll change the game a lot, but just because for whatever reason, I think hauling passenger cars with the steam train would be the most interesting use of the steam train, like you're running some sort of vintage railroad or something. We will go ahead and go to the passenger station real quick, just because usually I've noticed that the shop, if a station has a shop, it'll be near the passenger station. And you can see here that is in fact the case. And I don't believe there's anything to buy in this one except the harbor does have the pocket watch. So we could pick that up if we wanted to. I haven't really found a use for that, except for checking how long you've been in the game. You could reset it and time yourself. But you can see here we can also buy the SH282 guide, the shovel, and the lighter, which are the things you would need for operating the steam train when you're ready to do that. And you can always rebuy the shunter quick guide, even though it should always appear in your lost and found if you happen to leave it somewhere. Now heading back out to the tracks and back to that branch point, junction or switch. Going to the left takes us to yard G, which you can see is another storage yard. I'm sorry, G was where we were at before. This takes us to E, which is the main transfer yard. You can see this one has 6, 7, 8 outgoing lines and 2 incoming lines and no storage. So when you're done shunting, if you're loading up a job to leave, you will most likely be bringing it to one of these outgoing tracks. And if you're picking up a freight haul job, you will most likely pick it up from one of these outgoing tracks here as well. So that's the harbor. Oh, I guess the one thing I didn't specifically point out is where the station office is. And if you look on the map, you can see it's between C and D and your parking sidings. It's kind of out in by itself, but if you come to the big cranes, it's just to the right when you're facing the water. So if you're facing the harbor, you can see the big container ship, you can see the loading cranes, it's just to the right. If you've gotten to the roundhouse, which is off this way, you've definitely gone too far. So with that out of the way, hopefully that was useful to somebody. I know that I've seen several forum posts on the Steam forums about people being confused about the harbor. The thing about that is most people seem to be in a big rush right from the beginning to get those time bonuses. If you're coming into the harbor the first time, if it's your first job, because a lot of jobs from the steel mill where you start the game do seem to spawn jobs to the harbor quite frequently. You get to the harbor and you're thinking you got to get that time bonus, but you get here and it's just a confusing mess. You've never seen anything like it. Just don't worry about that bonus. Learn the harbor, do some shunting around here. It's the quickest way to learn where all the yards are, and you'll make money while doing it. Next time you come in here on a freight haul job, you won't have any trouble. Okay, let's go see what kind of jobs are available. Actually, what I think I'm going to do this time, and I did put it in the title of the video, so we'll definitely do it. And since we should have all of our fees cleared from last time, yep, good. So it loaded my save properly. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick up the logistical haul license as well. I actually put concurrent jobs in the title. So I'm going to go ahead and get logistical haul. That'll mean we have all of the job types available. We still have 9,000 left. So there we go. I'll just toss that aside. So now we can do any of the jobs for which we have. So any of the main job types, we still have to watch out for the licenses we don't have yet. Like here, we don't have hazmat. And now, especially with the harbor, let's just go ahead and quickly sort through these by jobs that we can even do. We don't have long 2. We have long 1, hazmat, nope. Long 2, no. Long 1, yes. So we'll start a logistical haul pile over here. Hazmat, don't have. Logistical haul, we can do. All right, long 1. Hazmat. Shunting, we can do shunting, so we could do that. Nope. Yes. No. No. Yes. Yes. All right, so there we have it, the harbor. Lots of jobs, and there's tons of jobs that we can actually do. I think I'm not interested in shunting today, especially since we should look at the logistical hauls and see if we can pick up a couple of those at one time. And unlike the shunting, where it shows you how many pickups you have to do so you can sort of plan, the logistical haul does not show you how much shunting you'll need to do before or after hauling it. So basically, when you do a logistical haul, you may have to assemble a consist of cars from where you're at and then haul it to the destination. Here would be the food factory. And then after that, you get there, you may actually have to break down the cars and put them into storage or into sidings. Freight haul, I just did last time, even though you guys didn't see it. So, but let's break these up by where they're going, see if we can get any overlapping ones. So we've got 2 freight hauls going to the goods factory, and it looks like the combined weight of both those would be well underneath our 400 limit. So, that wouldn't be too bad to do. 5,200, 6,500 going up to the goods factory, it looks like. So, that would be a pretty significant track back the way we came. We just came from there, so I'm not too interested in that. So I'm just going to plop these back over here, give us room to look at the logistical hauls. Now, I already see 2 going to the food factory right here, so that would be good. And now, the interesting thing about the license is so here we have one that requires long 1, which we have. We can also take this other one, which doesn't require long 1, and even though sticking these 2 trains together may put us over the limit of long 1 and into long 2, it doesn't matter. We'll still be able to haul it. It only matters for the individual job. So that might be a good one. And, since we're hauling empty cars, even though we'd have a pretty long train, we'd be well under our weight. And look at what these pay, $14,000 and $8,400. So that would be a good payday. But like I said, it will probably involve quite a bit of work, and that would require us to go all the way up to the food factory. Which would be an interesting route. So we can either go out to the east all the way around, or we can go out to the west. Yeah, and that takes us, unless we go past the steel mill. So either way, that's a tough one, but pays a lot. So here's one hauling empty tanker cars, which does not require hazmat because they're empty. And that we could take to Oil Well Central, which that one we would definitely come out to the west, head up, and then past the steel mill, and then over into Oil Well. That one pays $16,000. So that one I'm going to keep in mind. I haven't hauled tankers yet here. So here's a quick one, just going to the farm, which is actually on the way to Oil Well Central. So that might be an interesting one we could do these two jobs together. Drop off, make sure this is at the back of our train, drop it off on the farm. On our way to Oil Well Central, we could take both those jobs. Here's a quick one, just going back up to the steel mill. And here's a long train of flat cars. Just out of interest, I think I'm going to go ahead and grab these two. I've never had a chance to do a job that drops off, where I could drop off in one station and then continue on to the next. So let's do these. And now the thing to do here, and I do believe these are most likely going to be picked up. Actually, these will most likely be picked up from a storage siding. Wow. I just can't get that through my head. I originally, when I first came up with the terms, S to me seemed to be storage, and then I learned that they seem to be actually called sidings, and yet it's stuck in my head the wrong way. So the thing to do now is going to be to figure out where. So there is one siding in the liquids yard. So let's go see if our cars happen to be there. And once again, you could just run straight across the water, but I don't want to. And that would be nice because our train is here. In fact, are these box cars the ones that need to go to the farm? They might be. And these are the ones we just dropped off. These might need to go to the farm. Let's see what the job says. Yeah, this is it right here. So HB LH 78. Now, unfortunately, we really want these on the back so that we can drop them off first. But let's go see if the tankers back here are the ones we're looking for. Maybe. Yep, they sure are. Okay, that's kind of neat. So we just lucked out, happened to find our cars right here where we're already at. We do have this flat car in the way though, but since we're here, what we're going to go ahead and do is hook up to this. We'll hook up to the cars that we need, that we just dropped off. We'll actually pull back to that flat car, hook it up, bring everything forward, back it into this track here, unhook the flat car. Or actually, we'll unhook the flat car and these box cars. And then we'll be able to pull into our tanker cars, hook up to those, pull back in, and then back, and hook up to our box cars. And then we can get on our way. And we'll do all that before we validate the jobs. Because you can see we only have 38 minutes to do all this shunting and drive up to the farm and drop it off and do any sort of breakdown shunting that we'll need to do with this. Hopefully they can all stay together, but who knows at this point. So we'll just go ahead and do all that before validating. All right, fire up our locomotive. Fan on, cab lights on. And I should have hooked up first. I will do that now. So train brake should be off. Pull the independent brake off. We need to go into reverse. And here is where picking up the remote control would be super useful, because we need to back all the way up to that flat car without going too fast, but we also don't want to go too slow either. Otherwise, this will just take all day. Brakes are off. Let's hop out and see how close we are. Really close. There we go. We're under 5. We can just wait for that bump. We shouldn't damage anything. There we go. And since these are empty, I'm just going to set the independent brake so we don't have to wait for the train brake. Once again, I'm sure that is not recommended procedure. Let me just check something real quick, since we're not on the clock. 1 moment, please. Alright, sorry about that. I'm just extra paranoid about my stream working today, but I did switch off of, I've been having nothing but trouble with just using NVIDIA's Shadow Play, so I went ahead and switched over to Twitch Studio, which I've been much more impressed with lately, and everything seems to be going rather smoothly, and hopefully it's broadcasting to the right category this time, and didn't overwrite it like Shadow Play seems to do, but I'm not entirely sure how to check that right now. Alright. So the other thing with these logistical haul jobs is, you know, even though we may not be able to get the time bonus just because it's so, it's pretty, we've got a lot to do and not a lot of time. They already pay quite a bit more. And so that's where the money is going to come from here, is the concurrent jobs. Past. We're good. Switch that to the right, make sure that's to the left. That'll put us right where we want to be. Reverse. Brake off. Sound is also spot on this game. I love being able to hear all the creaks and groans of the cars as you slowly roll down the track. Alright, that should be good. We should be able to get past, hopefully. Yeah, here's the sign. And we don't want to bash into those other cars. see how close we got. Plenty of room. All right, so for here, we are going to want to uncouple this one. And remember the trick of making sure the brake is set by leaving the valve open until the air comes out of the brake pipe and the brakes engage. And we're also going to need to disconnect here and do the same thing. And I know I can use the switch remote, but I don't know. I like doing everything by hand. Feels more authentic for the aesthetic they're going for here. Everything's all gritty and analog, and I love it. I mean, just look how poorly they even bothered to clean the windows, because, you know, why bother? Also nice because flat cars still seem, empty flat cars especially, still seem to be a little bit finicky on certain sections of track. Out of everything I've driven so far, empty flat cars seem to be the most likely thing to derail, even if you're going at the speed limit or under for that section, just for whatever reason. Haven't noticed that issue with box cars, and this is my first trip with tankers, so, but since these are empty, we're allowed to do it. Waited a little too long on that one. But once again, doing all this beforehand, we're getting a really big jump start on the process here. almost there. Yep, there we go. Alright, this time I am going to go ahead and set the train brake, because after we hook up here, we will be heading to the office to validate these jobs and get on our way. That should do. Let's head to the office. That's 1 and 2. So C1S, that's where we hooked up. Oil well central. And it looks like we get to drop all of those off in one track. What about the farm? So picked up C1S, farm, B1S, excellent. So that is good news. We are not having to do any additional shunting at our destinations, either of them. So now we've got all that done. We can head out. And let's pull up our map while the brakes are releasing. And of course, going to the farm and the oil well, we are going to head out to the west, climb up the mountain here, which shouldn't be too much trouble. And then we'll come down and we'll have to curve around left before the steel mill, through the farm, back into the siding, unhook, go through into oil well, and then back into that siding and unhook. So uncouple. Let's get underway. Got everything. Yep. Oh, I love it. I really can't wait to get the D6. Very much looking forward to that. Not necessarily because I want to be doing the big jobs, just because I love those big diesel engines. And get out the remote, because we're going to be needing it coming around this bend. There's a pretty good curve so that where we need to make sure the junction is headed to the right, and then left up here. These should all be set though. In fact, I can see ahead we are going to the right. We haven't had to change to go into the military base yet, just because we are not doing the military license at this time, or we do not yet have it. So I'm thinking once we get past this junction, we are going to want to try and speed up a bit, because there is a pretty good grade coming out of the harbor going west. We do have a decently long train though. We're gonna have to be very, very careful about speed limits, especially approaching junctions. So not much chance to get going quickly before we hit this grade, this uphill grade, but let's see what we can do. And we should have a full fuel tank. Yep. See how much throttle we can put in before we get that wheel slip. There it is. Just a little bit of sand. See if we can get up to 40. Yeah, not worth it. But it looks like we're okay holding that amount of power anyway. Need to watch for that junction coming up here very soon. Let's go ahead and back off on the throttle. It says 50 approaching the junction, but I'd be surprised if it isn't 40 or even 30 going around to the right. So let's see. Oops, we were already going to the right. And look at that, just like I said, it's actually 40 when branching to the right, not 50. But we're going 30, we should be alright. And here's where we need to be extra mindful of our speed coming through that junction, because we cannot let it get above 40 before the entire train is around that corner. 70. We should be alright. And we're going to have a pretty good climb here. So we also need to be watching out for our heat, which you can see is almost up into the yellow. So with the shunter, even with empty cars, we've got a long train. Going uphill is just, it's going to be a slow process. The best thing to do, I've found, at least for me, is just not rush. That way you don't overheat the engine or derail any cars, which will slow you down even more if we're hitting the yellow. One thing I don't know is if you run the engine in the yellow, if it adds more wear and tear on the engine. I'm not entirely sure. Here we go, coming up on another 40 limit, but we're still going 30, so we're all right. I guess now is a good time to talk about just my thoughts on one of the other issues I see people bring up on the forums quite a bit, which is the really fast rate of fuel consumption and oil, and how quickly your train or your locomotive accumulates damage. I guess kind of the way, based on the distances you cover, sure, in real life terms, you're not going all that far and you use a lot more fuel than you would, but the way I see it here is that it's a similar situation to like if you're familiar with either Euro Truck Simulator or American Truck Simulator, where the distances, say, between the harbor and the steel mill is actually supposed to be like 200 kilometers or 300 kilometers, something of that nature, but the entire map is kind of compressed to give you, so that you're not driving for hours between spaces and you're doing the most interesting parts, which is shunting and uncoupling and parking and loading and all that stuff. Hello, JFK is AFK, who asks, what's the use of sand? Sand will prevent your wheels from slipping to a certain extent. So if you get to a notch of throttle where your wheels are slipping, so you'll hear that noise and the wheel slip light will come on. You can throw down some sand and it can actually give you more traction to the wheels. So next time I am on an uphill, I'll try and demonstrate it for you real quick. So let's see if I can do it right now. So you hear that and see the wheels, which means I'm not gaining any speed. If I put in some sand and back off a little bit, you can see the wheel slip light went off and I'm actually able to gain speed going up the hill here. It just gives you extra traction, but it is a consumable that you do have to pay for. Yep, you're quite welcome. Thanks for the question. And there's us into the yellow on heat again, so just got to keep an eye on that. And we're under 40, so we're good here. We are going to need to prepare for that left turn coming up ahead here. So we've got the remote ready to go. And I'm going to coast around this corner. And it says 50 again coming up to this. Who knows? All right, let's see what we got. We want to be going left, pointed right. So hit that switch. There we go. And it looks like it wants us to be going 40. Oh, I missed that. Looks like we're good to go 80 if we're headed to the left here. But we'll never get up near 80 in this thing going uphill. Oh, there's that wheel slip. And we definitely want to get a little bit more speed, so. So the next two junctions we're going backwards across, so we don't have to worry about those. The next junction we need to worry about now is we want to make sure to take a left coming into the steel mill and head towards the farm. So we've got a ways to go before we hit that. So we can just sort of relax and take in the sights. Make sure to keep an eye on our temperature and our speed. Let's see if we can power up just a little. Going into the yellow seems alright. I know that if you hit the red, your engine will just shut down, and then you'll have to wait for it to cool off and restart, and that's a huge time loss, as you can imagine. Still 80, we're well short, but our speed is climbing, so I'm going to back us off quite a bit and let our momentum carry us just a little bit. Especially since we should be hitting the downhill here pretty soon. there you can see again, just with just coasting for a couple minutes, you can see our speed or our heat decreasing rapidly. So if you're ever getting up there, just pull the throttle back, let your momentum carry you. You'll cool off pretty quickly. Now the issue is going to be not getting going too awful fast on the downhill. We've got a nice straight section relatively coming up here, which this will be the kind of thing that's extra fun with the steam engine or the DE6, just because they're much more powerful. You could actually get up to 100, 120 with those. The shunter, it's nice just to keep it going pretty slow, at least for me. Let's see if we can see what our cars are doing. Yeah, it looks like we got everything. That's fine. And usually I just expect a reduced speed coming up to a junction. This one looks like it's not too curved, so we should be alright. We'll see. Map likes to kind of slide around when you leave it. I have to keep adjusting it. Let's see, last sign was 80. Looks like 70. We're still well under. That's a 50 though. We need to slow down, so put in the train brake. There we go. Not too bad. Maybe it was a little too much. Oh yeah, no problem. I will explain the difference between the train and independent brake when I get a moment. 1 second. So the basic explanation of the difference between the train and independent brake is that the independent brake only controls the brakes on the locomotive, which means that when you have a lot of weight behind you, they're going to be less effective. So when you have a long train like I have here, even though the cars are empty, it's better to use the train brake, because what that does is it engages the brake. It engages the brakes on every car in the train, so you get much more braking power. The difference, the downside to using the train brake is that because of the way the brake pipe pressure works throughout the length of the train, it's less responsive to inputs, and when we get going here, or to a part where I can stop paying attention, I can explain a little bit more how the brake pressure system works, because that was the thing that was most confusing to me when I first started this game as well, just because there's not really anywhere in the game manuals that go over it. Essentially, that's what the brake pipe pressure indicates, and it takes a while to recharge. It actually takes longer to disengage the brake. So if you put in too much brake into the train brake and you find yourself slowing down too fast, when you release the brake, it can take a while to actually disengage the brakes, and you'll continue to lose speed. So when your train is light, or when you're just in the locomotive, it's best to use the independent brake because you can engage and release the brakes much more quickly. But the train brake is much more effective at stopping a long train, is the basics of that. Hope that helps. If you have any more questions about anything specific, definitely ask. And we got to watch our speed here because we're coming up on this pretty good curve. We definitely want to make sure we go the right way. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and start slowing down. So with the train brake, I just put in a little bit, and you can see I just am using it to control my speed. I'm thinking I'm not going to want to be going more than 40. It says 50, so yeah, let's definitely guess 40 here. So you can see I want to release it a little bit before because I'm still losing speed. Oh, we got to go left here. There we go. And it says we can go 60 to the right, but that that sounds kind of risky, so we'll just go a nice steady 30 around here. But if you notice, I released the brake right when we hit 40, but we actually slowed down to about 35 just because it takes a while for that brake pressure to climb back up and push the brakes off of the train. And we definitely need to watch our speed here. Yikes. Uh-oh. I think I was not paying attention. Let's hope we didn't lose any cars. Alright, we're coming up on the farm. We're going to want to make sure we're headed to the left. Oh, can't quite see it yet. Hope I didn't lose anything. Anyway, JFK, you said you picked up the game today. I hope you like it so far. I know it can be kind of confusing at first. It was for me as well. I don't know anything about how to operate trains in real life or anything like that. I just, read a lot, tinkered with things, watched some of the developer videos, and that was really helpful. Also, if you're interested, I did actually do a pretty comprehensive getting started guide, which should be archived on my Twitch channel. If you'd like to check that out at some point, because I go over quite a few of the game mechanics, essentially starting from right after the end of the tutorial. Where it just sort of dumps you out and the game doesn't really explain what to do next. So, we're coming up on the farm here, so we need to grab our job that's going to the farm, and we want B1S. So let's pull up our station schematics. Pop back to the farm. Oops. Went a little bit far. Okay. So we are coming from the northeast, I believe. Yep, that's us coming in from the northeast. So what we're actually going to want to do is pull straight through B and then back into 1S. So we'll figure that out as we get there. And this should be set up, since I haven't gone through here before, to just pull us straight through. So that's good. And then coming in from the northeast, we can see here 1S should be the siding all the way to our left. And we can see 3, 2, 1S, so that's good. It does look like there's quite a few cars on that, so we're probably going to have to push those out of the way, which shouldn't be too much of a problem. And like I said, we're not too worried about the time bonus, just because we've got 2 jobs here. They both pay pretty well, just on their own without that bonus. What specifically went wrong with the coupling? Was it the thing where you kept trying to push it, and or you kept trying to couple and it kept moving away from you, or was the brake pipe light on constantly. Yeah, we're gonna have to shove those pretty far down. Yeah, when we stop here, I'll, since it'll be relevant, I'll go over how the brake pipe works on the train. Let's see, I'm going to want to slow down a bit here. I'm not entirely sure how far past we are. In fact, I'll just go ahead and stop, and we can kind of take stock of our situation. Close the brake pipe after connecting it. Oh yeah, that'll, if that's what you did, then the train would definitely recognize the, it would recognize that there's something going on with the brake pipe. Oops, yep, seeing we didn't pull forward far enough here, but we can go ahead and set up these other switches while we're out here. We want to go right, and right again into 1S. Yeah, I did that a couple times as well, where the brake pipe light would be on and I'd go through the whole train and not be able to figure out what was wrong with it because everything looked right. I kind of have a routine for how I couple and uncouple things now that seems to be working. I haven't had that issue in a little bit. But I'll go over it here in a minute. Just gotta get... And you can see here I've got the throttle on, but I'm not moving because I have to wait for that pressure to climb far enough to release the brakes on the cars. That should be good though, so I think we just need a little bit more throttle. Yeah, there we go. Let's go check the end. And here, while we still don't have the remote yet, we just gotta run the tracks. Even though, obviously, you'd never do anything like this in real life. Alright, there we go. We want to go stop our train now. Okay, go ahead and release that. Let's run back, change our junction. There we go. Right. Okay, we should be good to go. Just out of curiosity, JFK, are you playing in VR or on a monitor? Okay. Yeah, I've pretty much been playing exclusively in VR just because, I don't know, this game was definitely built with immersion in mind, and like I love grabbing all the switches and handles and whatnot. It's super fun, but this game's definitely good enough, in my opinion, to hold up on the monitor as well, so... You know, any way that you can play, in my opinion, is a good way to go. Alright, let's see if I can hop back and slow that down before we... And, oh, we only need to slow down a little bit, so we should be alright. Nope, a little too much. like to be going about 5. That way I can tell for sure when I've hit the other cars. That should do. The VR does look easier than playing with mouse and keyboard. Yeah, I think the one big advantage here with VR is that you can just physically grab the controls, and they're just sort of where they would be in real life. So you've got your hand controllers, and you can just sort of grab things. It's pretty nice. Whereas, as far as I understand it, on mouse and keyboard, it's pretty much essential to set up hotkeys for like throttle and brake and all that stuff, so that you don't have to constantly like point the center of your view down there. All right, so we're there. I'm going to go ahead and pull back, or I'm going to go ahead and set the train brake. So here's a good routine for coupling new cars, is always set the train brake first. This way we can maintain the same level of pressure throughout the brake pipe all along the train. It does mean we'll have to wait a little bit longer when we want to move again, but and the reason I need to, oh, I missed which ones I need to couple to. That's got to be this one back here. And I lost my train of thought. Perfect. Oh, the reason we need to couple to this is because when cars are just sitting here, they will by default have their train or their brakes engaged. So I need to push these cars back to make room on this siding for the cars we're trying to drop off. And that would be impossible because I'd be fighting the brakes on all these cars. So we need to couple to this. Got the hose, click it together, and then open the valves, and that should disengage, or actually everything's engaged now. But now when I release the train brake in the locomotive, it should take the brakes off from this entire train, except when cars are in the siding, they aren't necessarily all coupled together. Yeah, see, we're only going to be able to go back this far. So this did just turn into a little bit more of a pain than I was hoping, but it's all right. We'll make do. Let's just go check all these real quick. And it looks like these ones are all coupled together. Basically, if you look down here and you see the brake hose connected, you know they're fully coupled. Just because that's how they spawn. There we go. All right. So annoyingly, we're going to only be able to push back a little bit. There we go. And then kind of the last thing too, and this is what caught me out with the train brake, is the way it works is that the air pressure and why the brake pipe, when it's engaged, has low brake pressure is because, you know how in your car, when you push down on your brake pedal, it increases pressure on your brakes to your wheel, which slows it down. This is essentially the opposite, where when brake pressure comes out of the line, your brakes will clamp when there's nothing in the line, and then air pressure is needed to actually push the brake pads off of the wheels. So it's essentially the opposite of how car brakes work. So you need high brake pressure to know that the brakes are off, because the air pressure is pushing the brakes off of, the wheel. So, which is why when we release the brakes here, you can see the brake pressure start to climb as the locomotive is pumping pressure into that brake line all the way down the train, which is then pulling the brakes, off of the wheel. And the longer your train, the longer it takes, just because there's a lot more surface area in the pipe. Once you get past 3, you should be good to go, so we should be all right here. Let's see if we can move this long train of cars. We're gonna have to put quite a bit of power in to get going. Oop, except I have the independent brake still set. We don't want to be fighting our own locomotive's brakes, so there we go. And I'm just gonna get it up to about that may actually be it. Train brake again. And we'll head back down, see what we need to couple to. Oh, here's the loading station. That's good to know. Coupled. Oh, I think I missed it. Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, they're all coupled. What'd I miss? Oh, this one. There we go. Sometimes you just gotta pay attention. Okay. And once again, we'll couple this all up together. Now the nice thing is we don't need to worry about uncoupling all these once we get our cars that we're dropping off here into the track. We can just uncouple the cars that we're dropping off and go. We don't need to set them back up. And the other thing to know as well is that they don't need to be between the signs. It just needs to be clear of the junction. So I'll go over here and kind of show it. So as long as the car we're dropping off is back to about here or so, past the junction so that we can get by, that should count for the job validator. So let's hop back in, but I'll probably push us back. Release both brakes this time. Yeah, look how long this is taking now with that really long train. Wow. And just because I'm paranoid, B1S while we're waiting. Sorry. Yeah, that has to be it. And sorry for the jumping around view every time I turn left or right. It's just, that's a side effect of the whole VR thing. I tried playing it with smooth turning, but that's the one thing in VR that still gives me motion sickness. But for some reason, when turning in these chunky 30-degree motions, it completely mitigates that. So, but I know it can be a little bit annoying to watch when the view's constantly chunking around like that. All right, we're almost there, so I'm gonna go ahead and hop back into the locomotive, put the brake on. Ooh, and take the throttle off so we're not wasting fuel. Okay, this isn't a good time to show it, so maybe next time. But so you want to leave the train brake engaged so that when we uncouple back here, the car brakes are engaged. If you take that off, and then if you disengage the train brake and then uncouple your cars, the brakes on everything down the line from where you uncouple will be off. And so if you try and couple with it again, you'll probably just push it all away from you, which can be a huge pain. Oh, that's good to know. Thanks for saying about the view. Okay, so we got those uncoupled. That's it. And I don't actually know where the station office is here. I've not ever dropped anything off at the farm, so it looks like it should just be straight over this way. Wow. There's a blind teleport for you. I see it, I think. Yep, here we go. And let's see how we did. I don't imagine I made the time bonus just because I was taking it pretty slow, but I did do a lot of it beforehand, so let's see how we did. There's the job validator. Looks good. We missed the time bonus by 1 minute. Oh well. Still, $9,400. Not bad. And the next one will be dropping off at the oil well. That one's worth a lot more. So I chunk my money into my wallet, and we'll move on to dropping these off at the oil well, which shouldn't be too far up the road. In fact, go there, disengage our brakes, and we'll take a look. And once again, we are going to want to go ahead and just pull straight through the oil well and back our cars into where we're going here. Make sure the reverser's forward. And that didn't take nearly as long because we've got a pretty short train now. Here we go. And let's pull up our schematics and find... Ooh, it's all the way at the back. There it is. So we are going to be coming in... We are going to be coming in from the east. We need to go to B6, so we'll be coming in from this way. Find B, and we're coming in from the east, so 6 is going to be all the way to our left. But we're actually going to want to pull through first so we don't trap our locomotive in case there's cars on there. I guess we can take a look at it when we get closer. If there's any cars already on here, we're going to want to pull forward and then back. If it's empty, we can just pull straight in. So we'll take a look when we get a little closer, which should be right here. And since I know we've missed the time bonus on this job, how much time did we have for it? Yeah, it's fine. Should be straight through. And I do believe I see some cars on the far left track. So yeah, we're going to want to go ahead and pull straight through. And then we'll back into that siding so that we don't trap our locomotive in between the job we're dropping off and the cars that are already there. No, actually, yep. This away. In fact, I'll put this away. Let's do everything manual. Check my brakes. It looks like the office is going to be off to the left here. Go through past the furthest junction so that we can actually just pass this one so that we can branch back off. So and start slowing us down. That might have been too much again. I'm still getting the hang of it. It's always a work in progress here. Constantly learning about, yeah, see, I left the brakes engaged for too long, so they didn't add enough pressure before it slowed me down so much. And let's see, we're about there. And we'll go ahead and stop, put both brakes in, do a little time-saving trick here. Since our cars are empty, the independent brake should be enough to hold them while they're stopped, so we can go ahead and pull that off while we're taking care of the junctions, and we won't have to wait for that brake to repressurize when we get back. So here we are. We want to go to the right. Right, B6S. And it looks like there may just be enough room for our cars on here without having to couple to those ones and push them back. Here's hoping. Let's see. Up in, reverser back, independent brake off. And now we can go. That should be good. We can hop out. Wait till we get a little closer. Yeah, there's a ways to go. Here's where that remote control is really helpful. We could just wait back here. But honestly, it's a lot of fun to learn how to judge the distances and whatnot and hop in and out of a moving train. Yeah, we may have to push those a little bit, but we'll try it this way. I see the office just over there. So. All right, let's slow down to about 5. And we're almost there. Just use the independent brake for that. There we go. Now we can just back right into those other cars. Shouldn't damage them. But it does look like we're going to have to push those all back. Yep. See, we're definitely not clear of the junction here. So I'm just going to set the independent brake. And we need to find which one. I should have counted my cars, but I didn't. I just hopped out here. And since I didn't set my train brake here, you'll hear when I connect the brake hose here, you'll hear the air rushing from my train here into the train I'm just hooking up. There it is, as it pressurizes the rest of the brake pipe and loads the brake. How much does it cost, the remote? I think it's like $25,000 or something like that. I only had it once before I restarted my game here to do my tutorial series, so I don't specifically remember, I'm sorry. And I think you can only find it in the store in the machine factory, I think. this time we will just use the train brake because we want the brakes on when we uncouple. Ah, oof. Jumping not great in VR. Did not mean to do that. There we go. Let's go turn this thing in. There we go. Still not that far off, and we still made $16,000 for that. So it's not hard to make money in this game if you're willing to take your time. And look at that. Now we're up to 35,000 again already. So I'm thinking I might just leave it here. But before I go, are there any questions you have for me while you're here, or anything you want to see real quick that I could demonstrate for you, or maybe answer? Let's just see what jobs are available as well. No hazmat. Yeah, it's like all going to be hazmat because of the oil. Yeah, we can't even do any jobs at this station, so our next best bet will actually be to, since we're already facing this way, for next time, would be to actually go ahead and just pull into City Southwest and see what jobs they have there. Yeah, no problem. Thanks so much for watching and asking questions. I love it. And I'm trying to make this a regular thing, trying to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the same time at 2 o'clock Eastern. I'd love to have you back with me if you want. I'm really just going to be playing this game, getting licenses as I go, trying to answer anybody's questions. Yep, I'll be back on Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. And I'm also looking to, diversify my schedule a little bit too. Right now, I'm kind of just doing Derail Valley. I'm kind of new to this whole streaming thing. But if you've got any ideas for other things you'd like to see, I do like a lot of the kind of job simulator type games like Euro Truck and Train Sim. And the newest one I've been playing is Hard Space Shipbreaker, which is essentially like this, but you're tearing apart ships in space. It's really fun, actually. Yeah, you too, man. Thanks so much for hanging out. And I hope to see you again soon. Yeah, go ahead and shut this down while I'm here.